All right, so I'm sitting here, I'm doing my soak off for my nails, for my dip powder. And I wanted to have a conversation with y'all because I realized I kind of left you in the dark. Now this is not gonna be a full conversation. I'm just going to kind of tell you as I feel led to tell you. First, let me start off by, I don't want to discourage anyone from going in any field. Every field has their ups, downs, and in the middles, okay? You guys know I've decided to switch back to daycare. And there's a lot of reasons for that, okay? I also started this channel off doing massage, okay? And there were a lot of reasons that I went into doing massage, and I think it was beautiful. However, I do think one of the reasons that I was in the field of massage was to talk about some truth that actually happened in massage. Now, I was watching a video of a registered dietitian, and she was basically talking about this alkaline diet that this guy basically was scamming people for money and pretending like he could heal their ailments. And I don't think that people actually always set off to fool people. I think that some of them actually begin to believe it themselves. And I can say that as for massage, I ran into a lot of people. I always would say, and I always stuck to the mindset of, I'm not God. I can't heal you. If you come in here and you say something's wrong with your shoulder, if you come in here and say something's wrong with your back and all these things, I can do some relaxing techniques. You might leave feeling very much like you might leave feeling better. A lot of people left feeling better. But please believe that I'm not God and I'm not the one who made you feel better. And I think that a lot of massage therapists, they get themselves caught up into this like la la land, this mystical, magical world of I'm the healer, okay? God is the healer. And there's only one mediator between God and man, and that is Jesus Christ, okay? So if you're healed inside of this room, I'm not saying that you won't, because I believe that God is a healer. But a lot of people like to turn it on the actual therapist and pretend as though the therapist is the healer. And what you'll get is a lot of times, most massage therapists are not people who believe in Jesus Christ. Most of them don't even believe in God. Most of them believe in, crystals and all of these other, they believe in witchcraft. Most of them do. So when you tell someone who believes in those things that they are not God, well, they don't believe it, because the way that they live their life is that they're the Lord over their life. So it just became this very mystical, magical world. And like I said, it's not the only reason that I left it, because you better believe if God has sent me to a place, I'm not going to leave until he says it's done. I'm not going to leave until he says mission complete. That's just me. So can anyone scare you away from anything? Not me. No one can scare me away from anything, but you have to realize when, kind of like the army, girl, the system is the system. And if you don't know nothing else from the channel, baby, I'm a system exposer, okay? I will see the system and I will expose the system. And I believe even in the field of massage, that was one of my assignments. So like I said, it's a kind of an ongoing conversation, but me listening to that thing, I realized I didn't tell you guys that. And let me know, if you're a massage therapist and you're watching, let me know how you feel about it. Now, with that being said, do I believe? I believe in the healing powers, still God being the one who can ultimately heal, of self-care, okay? You need to take time to care for yourself. I'm sitting here doing my nails right now. You think I don't believe in the power of self-care? I do. Because with me doing my nails, I'm actually able to sit here silently. My son's playing his game, my husband's at a training, my daughter's sleeping. I get a chance to sit here in my thoughts, pray, talk to God, talk to myself. I get to be here with myself and get down to the root of some issues. A lot of people just want quick fixes. A lot of people want to go on these fad diets and do these fad things. They want a quick fix. And let me tell you, the saddest thing about hearing that article is people try out these diets and they'll seek out a certain massage therapist and just seek out certain people because they don't believe in God, one. And they ultimately believe that someone else has the power, or even they do, to determine their fate. Only God. And that's people who scam you out of your money. They know at the end of the day, they can't do anything for you. When it's your time to leave this earth, God will see to it that you leave this earth. Just like when it's someone's time to be born, no one can. Don't you think if people could actually just poof, a child's going to be born. The women suffering from infertility and things of that nature, don't you think they would seek out these people? Don't you think this would be something that we know about? No, that's the trick of the enemy. That's the trick of manipulation, but making you believe that you can manipulate situations and outcomes. That is witchcraft. That is what witchcraft is. And let me tell you, don't you give another penny to anyone else with the thought that they can change what God says is. They can't change what God said is. You need to talk to God. And I found that, I don't know, my chicken's beeping. I found that a lot of people didn't want to hear that within my therapy sessions, like my massage therapy sessions. People don't want to hear that. They come in with all this mystical, magical, and they want to push it off on you, and I'm not the one. I'm not the one. And like I said, it's sad because a lot of people, like, I get it. The woman that the lady was talking about in the article, she had cancer and she wanted to seek out all these treatments. But at the end of the day, she could have let her family keep their $70,000+. They could have kept their money, because at the end of the day, when God says it's done, it's finished. It's finished. So I didn't mean to start this video off so seriously, but gosh, I'm so sick of it. I'm sick of it. I want you to keep your money and I want you to keep your sanity, because at the end of the day, when is your time to leave out of here? When is your time to get a blessing? Baby, whenever is your time to get, and I'm not saying don't work hard. I'm not saying, eat whatever food you want to, don't work out. And I'm not saying that. Take care of yourself to the best of your ability, but just know that after you've done everything that you can do, that's it. There's nothing else that you can do except for, and not even except for, prayer needs to be at the top of the list so that you're making sure that your efforts are going in the right place. It's essential. You don't want to just be working aimlessly, baby. I want to hit the bullseye every single time I do something. It needs to be the right thing. And you take it from me. I don't want you wasting your time as I have wasted mine. I don't. Am I saying massage is a waste of time? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't want you wasting your time. Obviously, it wasn't a waste of time. I'm able to tell you this. Obviously, it wasn't a waste of time. Like, no one wants hard work. Nobody wants hard work in anything. You don't want hard work in, relationship. Like, nobody want to work hard. It's the craziest thing ever. Everything's got to be easy. And when you think something's going to be easy, you open yourself up for the possibility of someone to sell you something that's easy. They sell you this miracle healing, okay? They're selling you these miracle potions. They sell you this magic of, I can get it done now. And that's the trick of the enemy. Nothing that you'll get in your life, nothing, not one thing that's good will come to you quickly. You're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to work. You're going to have to work for it. So if you have something and you didn't work for it, and I'm not saying, like I'm working hard right now so that my children can get something that I didn't have. I'm not talking about that. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about. God won't leave you in the dark. He will let you know. Okay? Let me get off my soapbox. Girl. Speaking of eating healthy, I have this broccoli that I've steamed and some chicken. Let me see, hold on. It's like orange pepper chicken. And then I also have some potatoes, even though that would probably be really good with some rice. But since these potatoes are already made, we're gonna have these with the potatoes as well. Girl, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the selling people fad diets. The people are doing stuff to the meat at the grocery store. Okay, yeah, they are. You don't know what they're doing to the vegetables at the grocery store. But at the end of the day, God knows what you can afford. He knows what you need. He knows what you have access to. And you can't spare your life. Your life is not yours. I know that we believe that it is, but it's not your life. You might as well turn your life over to the God who can save you. I'm just saying, it's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. And the people who know, they need to stand up and stop being like, when you know, and you have to stand up. You have to be bold. You have to be bold. You're going to have to be bold. Think about our children. And if you don't have any children, think about the children that you want to have. Think about your future children. Think about your nieces, your nephews, your sisters, your brothers. Like, this is the world that we live in. And we have to get older too. And if you think it's bad now, baby, think about when you and I get 60. And I don't know if you're my age, but think about, 30 years from now. Maybe if it's bad now, it's going from worse to worse, sir. Okay, like where's the worst part? No, I'm not done. I gotta say this too. So the other day, I actually, and I'm not gonna tell you where this happened because I don't want to be messy. That's not the goal. But I was reading this little thing, and basically the woman had a dream, and she was asking about like, hey, what does the dream mean? Now y'all know, if you've been rocking with me here for a little while, you know the Lord speaks to me by way of dreams, and I'm not special. That's the way that he communicates with me since I was a very young child, okay? Now, when I was younger, did I have the interpretation of the dreams? No. But some of those dreams, they were so, I don't want to say traumatizing. They were so extreme. They were so different. They were so vivid. They were so lifelike that I remember them now, okay? I did not have the interpretation of those dreams when I was younger. Actually, it scared me. Actually, it was something that was so foreign, I couldn't share with anyone, I felt like. So that's why I'm so open and vocal with you guys about dreams, because if I'm honest, if I would have actually listened to those dreams, it would have saved me from a lot of things. However, no one could ever interpret those dreams for me. One, because I wouldn't tell them. Two, because I wouldn't tell them. Three, because they couldn't interpret it, even if I did tell them. Because I think there was a few times I might have shared, people were looking at me like I was crazy. It wasn't until I grew in faith, I grew in belief, and I grew in God by reading the word and just by simply having a relationship with God that I actually learned to interpret the dreams myself. All right, so I'm editing this video right now, and I'm at the part where I say, well, you'll see this interruption. I mean, I thought, you know what, let me look up dream interpretations of the Bible, and I found this beautiful passage of scripture, and I want to read it to you. Okay, in the second year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams in his mind, and his mind was troubled. He could not sleep. So the king summoned magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers to tell him what he had dreamed. When they came and stood before the king, he said, I have a dream that troubles me, and I want to know what it means. Then the astrologers answered the king, may the king live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will interpret it. The king replied to the astrologers, this is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me what my dream was and interpret it, I will cut you into pieces, and your houses turn into piles of rubble. But if you tell me the dream and explain it, you will receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. Girl, I'm about to get on my soapbox. So tell me the dream and interpret it for me. Once more they replied, let the king tell his servants the dream and we will interpret it. The king answered, I am certain that you are trying to gain time because you realize what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me the dream, there is only one penalty for you. You have conspired to tell me misleading and wicked things, hoping the situation will change. So then tell me the dream, and I'll know that you can interpret it for me. The astrologers answered the king, there is no one on earth who can do what the king asked. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or astrologer. When the king asks, what the king asks is too difficult. No one can reveal it to the king except the gods, and they do not live among humans. This made the king so angry. The king basically was like, baby, I said what I said, I'm gonna put you to death, okay? So they went and found Daniel, and you can read Daniel's story in the Bible, of course. Daniel spoke to him with wisdom and tact. He asked the king's officer, why did the king issue such a harsh decree? And then the officer explained what happened to Daniel. And Daniel said, Daniel went to the king and asked the king for some time that he might interpret the dream for him. Then Daniel returned to his house and explained the matter to his friends. He urged them to plead for mercy from God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that he and his friends might not be executed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. During the night, the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Then Daniel praised God of heaven and said, praise be to the name of God forever and ever, wisdom and power. And he goes on and on. So you ask the question, why, first of all, this is going to lead into another topic that I'm going to talk about a little later in this video. Mind you, this is a different day, okay? So I'm not just making this up. it leads me to the first thing that I mentioned, like I said, and that is all wisdom comes from God. All words come from God. God is the only one speaking. And you have to be careful because sometimes people can access the word, like I will give you in that scenario. People can access the word, but most of the time, all of the time, they're accessing the word from a good source. I'm going to say that. When they're not doing that, it's usually because they're gaining something in return. Most of the time in this day and age, it's your money. They don't care about you. They want your money. They want your repeat business. Okay, it's always about money. That's what it's always about. So they couldn't answer, and they realized I'm going to tell him this word, and it's not going to resonate with him because obviously Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and God was calling him to closeness with him, to fellowship with him. He's the king. That was God's desire for him to fellowship with him. And instead of him, like I'm going to mention in this example, instead of him going straight to the source, he thought that it was necessary to seek out other people, one of which was aiming to tell him a lie. Before a season, they were able to give him accurate information. And it wasn't until Daniel sought out God. And you said, Tanzania, but I just thought you said no one can interpret the dreams. The goal in that scenario was to draw the people back to God. So of course, when people can be healed, when miracles can happen, God is a loving Father. Why would he not ultimately want you to be healed? Why would he not want to be Lord over your life again? That is his desire, that we're in fellowship with him. So he realized that a man after his heart, Daniel, could actually bring, like this scenario could bring the people back into fellowship with God. Of course he answered, because he knew that Daniel was going to give glory back where it belonged, and that was to God. Of course he would answer. But I thought this was a very interesting scripture, and of course I'll leave it for you on the screen. People will fool you until they realize that then God will give them a warning. The same source that they're getting this information from, they'll realize there's a connection to it. And you'll notice that even some people, they will completely leave alone, be like, oh, God didn't give me the okay to mess with this one. What does it say? There's a hedge of protection around everything they own. I'm not going up in there. You ain't about to get me in trouble. You're about to get me in trouble. But the moment that you decide that you want to seek out outside help, you give legal, and I'm talking about in the spirit, you give a legal access to these people. And it's almost like the door's closed and all you had to do was go to God and he will show you the real way. But this door that's right in front of you, it just seems like it's open. And then you just start walking and you're like, dang, girl, how did I get in here? You open the door. You open the door because you didn't want to do the work of relationship. So let's get back to the video. Because if I'm honest, back in the day, I used to be on Google. The dream used to be so crazy, I would be Googling. And I remember one specific time, I'm not going to tell you the dream, but one specific time, the dream, literally, it is the dream that changed my life. It was a very real life dream. Like I said, if you follow me for a while, you know what I'm talking about. And I remember calling my grandma, I called my mom. My mom told me that I need to pray. She didn't try to interpret the dream. My grandma told me she went on Google and she began to try to Google the message. And I later found out, you guys know the story, when you try and Google a message, that's actually witchcraft. How can you leave it up to Google, to a search engine, to determine what God is saying to you? What he's revealing, what he's warning you of? No one can interpret the message aside from God. God is the only mediator between man. Not God is the only mediator. Jesus Christ is the only mediator between God and man. So I had to that was God's way of saying, develop a relationship with me so that I can tell you what's really going on here. So when I read this thing the other day and the lady was kind of pointing the lady who was asking about the dream back to her, I'm like, this is not God. Because anytime someone asks me to, they'll say the dream, even if I get the word, even if I understand what it means, you know what I do? I will begin to pray about what the Holy Spirit is revealing to me that the person is saying about the dream. I'll pray that God reveals it to them. And even if they don't get it revealed, I can still, now I have the right information to intercede on their behalf, to intercede, to say an intercessory prayer, to come in the middle. Maybe they don't know what it is. Maybe they don't know what's keeping them from this point to this point. But now I have the authority because I'm praying the right prayer. I'm not just praying in vain. Now I have the right sight. I know my prayer is going to hit the bullseye because the Holy Spirit has revealed to me what the prayer is. When someone tells me that and I get what their dream is, it's not for me to go off and pretend like I'm God and I'm interpreting their dream, even if I know what it means. The only dream that I can tell you what it means is a dream that I've had, right? I can only tell you what a dream means that I've had because I'm the one who asked God about it. And I will tell you that sometimes I don't get the answer as soon as I wake up. Sometimes it takes a while. I've sat on a dream for 2 years before God showed me what it meant. But that takes relationship, and people are so desperate for answers. You're running toward witches being desperate for answers. Because now she's opened herself up to someone to come in, and people call it familiar spirits, people call them monitoring spirits, for someone to come in this place that now you have revealed that you have a lack and occupy it. And you're blindsided because you're looking at them like God. Like, oh my God, God, they interpreted this thing for me. Oh my God, they gave me a word from you, Lord. Not knowing that that same word that they gave from you, and it might have been from God. Sometimes God does that. I've had God give me a word to give to someone else, but at no point in time I'm acting like I'm God. And don't come to me and ask me for a word, because that's not a thing either. Only one mediator between God and man, that's Jesus Christ. That means develop a relationship with Jesus Christ for yourself so he can speak to you. Baby, you don't need no sidekick. He can speak to you. He can let you know exactly what it is. It's not a secret. It only seems as though it's a secret to you because you don't want to do the work of developing a relationship, but you're asking for a man. And why we here? Why am I on my soapbox? Developing a relationship, people act like it's such a crazy thing, but you develop a relationship with your children. You will develop a relationship with your spouse. You have to develop a relationship with God to get to understand the character of God. You need to develop a relationship with Jesus. Let me say that. It's necessary. For you to understand the characteristics of God, you need to understand the characteristics of Jesus. It's really simple. It's no magic solution. It's simply developing a relationship. And if that's hard for you, God can work on that with you too. You know why? Because if that's hard for you, I can assure you that relationships in your life are suffering as well. I just want us to get it right, because the people are out here fooling, trickery and foolery. And it's really not even that hard to get people down because you're so desperate for truth. You're so desperate for answers. You're so desperate for quick solutions. And people are taking full advantage. She directed that woman to a whole course or something that her sister was giving. How you charging me something that God gave freely to you? No charge. I won't be doing any coaching classes or anything like that. And if I do end up doing some sort of coaching, something like that, it will be free. There's no way in this world that I'm going to charge someone for something that God has given freely to me. It's asinine. It's wild. All for the sake of what? Making money? Unfortunately not. And I'm going to say this one last thing, and I'm going to get off my soapbox and finish my nails. I have been wanting to say this to you guys for a long time, because some people are really confused. Like, what do you mean? Like, how do you know it's God? How come? And I had a lady ask me this a long time ago. How come the sidekick and the prophet can give the same word? You are going to have to get a relationship with God and heighten your sense of discernment to know, because the message, only God can speak a word. So whatever source you decide to get the message from, only God can speak a word. The trick is the enemy's message is laced with deception. That means there's a part of this word that's being given to you that's going to leave out the key components that's really going to allow you to steward whatever it is that's next. Well, I gave you guys the millionaire scenario. You get a word that you're going to be a millionaire. It's a God word. God is the only one that speaks a word. Okay? God is the only one. No one can get access from a word unless it comes from God. But the person of God, the person, whatever, in your time with God, you know that you're going to be a millionaire, but you also are aware of the things that you need to work on to be able to keep the millions and steward the millions well. You don't get that word from a person of God. You don't spend time with God. You get that word from another. You decide you go see a sidekick, and you decide you're going to catapult, you're going to manifest it. You'll catapult your way to the end, not realizing that you were going to, those traits, those things that you refuse to clear up. Some of those things in there would actually kill you. And yet you would die a millionaire, but you would never see the millions. You don't know the story. It is best for you to communicate with God so you get all the details. He won't leave anything out. He won't leave you lacking. He is a father. He loves you. And some of us, myself included, didn't really have good relationships with our father. So it just really blows our mind as to how a father really cares about all the intricate details of your life. But he does. He does. And another thing I want to explain, because I said only God can speak a word. So Tanzania, how can all these other people access a word if only God can speak a word? Think of it as like a tree. Think of it as like a tree. All of the leaves on the tree are words that God spoke, okay? So we have the tree, all of the leaves on the tree is word that God spoke. When the word falls off, so heaven releases the word comes down here to us, we get the word, right? The word's here. You don't know it, but there's a word spoken about your life, you just haven't accessed it. Rather, it is you spending time with God. It is you spending time in worship to access what God knows about your life. Baby, you ain't random. You're not just randomly here. That's foolish. You know all of the coincidences that would have had to happen for you to be here on this earth? Baby, you are not random. Anyways, here's the tree. All the tree has all the leaves on it, which are representative in this scenario of the words that God has spoken. Those leaves fall off. Okay? And all of those words that God has spoken is all around the ground. This person accesses it by, witchcraft. All these other things. The ground is all these other places that you can go to get the word. But there's still leaves on this tree, and you have the ability to access the tree. Come on. The tree. You have the ability to access the tree. But instead of doing all the work that it takes, the work via relationship, like I said, worshiping, and really getting to know God so you can get the word straight from the source, my God, you decide you want to pick up leaves off the ground. And you didn't realize that earlier a dog came and peed on that leaf. Like I said, there's some stuff about this scenario that you need to clean up before you actually get to the place of the word that was revealed. But make no mistake, baby, God is the only one who speaks a word. God is the only one who speaks a word. Okay? All right, so now that I'm off my soapbox, let me finish my nails and hopefully finish this video. But I just had to say that. I've been sitting on it for a while, as you can tell, because I don't think the time was right. The time is right now. The time is right now. It's just, I don't want to say it's foolish, because I don't think everyone intends to fool people in their teaching. I'm not saying I'm a teacher. I'm just a girl. I'm just a woman here, a woman, sharing my heart. And in sharing my heart, I see how people who are just like me are going astray. I was one of those people. I got tricked just like that. And yes, I came out on the other side. But in coming out on the other side, I owe it to other women just like me to warn you. To warn you. And that's what I'm doing, okay? So, later. So you ready to talk again or no? Or you got sick of me this morning? Girl. So this came at the perfect time. Now I heard people talking about the shiny, happy people, whatever. I never really was a huge fan of the Duggar Show. My mama really didn't let us watch TV like that, if I'm honest, which is crazy, especially watching that TV show and hearing some of the things that they couldn't do. I couldn't do some of those things as well, okay? And I would say for good reason. They were on the right track. Okay, but let's talk about some of the foolishness, and we're gonna piggyback this off the conversation that we had earlier. Please don't mind my son. Okay, my son's back there playing Fortnite, and things get a little crazy. Just keep it here, okay? Keep it here. When I talk about witchcraft, a lot of people, especially because I'm talking about crystals and new age things, because it's new. This is new. This is the new thing that people are doing. And I'm talking about that, baby. Come on. Oh, excuse me. Please excuse me. I forgot to mention that it's in the church too. Did I forget to mention that it's in the church too? And let's talk about this. This documentary was the perfect example. And I will say the one thing I don't like about this documentary is that they're saying Christians, okay? And I mean, a lot of people who say they're Christians are not really followers of Christ. I know Christianity was supposed to start off as like it was supposed to be built around Jesus, but it quickly turned out not to be. It's a lot of the time people who are church going. I mean, they go to church every time the building's open, are not followers of Christ. They are some of the nastiest, meanest, rudest people ever. They're witches. Okay, this too is witchcraft. When I say witchcraft, baby, I'm not relegating this to outside of the church walls. It comes in the church walls as well. And y'all be like, Tanzania, why I thought you followed Jesus? Baby, I love the Lord. Me and Jesus, I love Jesus. I love Jesus. But let me tell you something. And I think this is one of the advantages that I had. Even though I grew up, my mother loved the Lord and I love the Lord. She did not make us go to church every Sunday, every Saturday, every Friday. We didn't do that, okay? And even when I grew older, yes, I did found a church home that I encountered the Lord as an adult, but I still did not go to church every single Sunday. And I will tell you this story. So I went to this church before because I think, and work with me, this is going to be a long conversation, okay? I think a lot of the times people are searching for community. And yes, is it better for you to find a community amongst people who believe the same thing that you believe? Absolutely. So we create communities, but you have to understand that within those communities are also people with their own wills, own emotions, own desires. They got their own stuff going on too, okay? And all of those people have the ability to do whatever they want to do, period. Period. There's nothing else to it, period. So before I got married, I went to a church, like when I moved to this side of town, I went to a church over here. And I just noticed that a lot of the practices that were going on in church didn't align with the Bible. They were not aligning with the Word of God. Two, they were not aligning with the way that God was speaking to me. It was a misalignment. And I sat in there and I'm like, Lord, what's going on in here? And I remember that one day I prayed and I went to church, and honey, the Spirit broke out in the church. And I was excited about that because it made me realize that God, whatever I desire to encounter you, wherever I go and I expect you to show up, your Spirit to show up, you will. You're that good. That's what I believed that day when I went in there, and it happened. So then it got me going with the mindset of like, so you mean to tell me I can have church right in my house? Like if I don't have the gas money to be driving to some church, I don't have to go to church. You mean to tell me I don't need to go find a prophet? You mean to tell me, God, you can just speak a word? So I began to have church in my house. Now let's fast forward to 7 years later. My husband and I, like all of us, my husband, my son, my daughter, we all went to this church together. And my son was excited because he remembered that day that we had that encounter with God in church. And it was great. He was like, oh, he was excited to go back. Because baby, once you taste the presence of God, if someone can lure you in saying the presence of God is in a certain place, you're going to run to it. You're going to flock to it. Even as a child, you will. So he was like, that's the church that we went to? And I was like, yeah. Girl, we went in that church. I'm sitting here ducking strobe lights. It was a terrible experience. And then I realized that had I not left that church 7 years earlier, I would not have grown spiritually because I wouldn't have grown in relationship with God. I would have grown in relationship with the church, but not in relationship with Jesus Christ. And that is a problem. And I found with this documentary, a lot of those people were like seeking out for something. And I'm not even done watching them. I'm only on the first episode. Seeking after something. Hold on. Anyway, just seeking after something. Like they they had this whole thing of like, oh, these people, since they have so many kids, they can show me how to raise my kids better, instead of actually like partnering within your family, partnering with God, you and your family. And I'm not talking about partnering with God in a way to be a lord over someone. I'm not talking about manipulation. That is manipulating. To take Bible scriptures and to say, oh, I'm about to read this thing right here, and this is how I can apply it to you and tell you that you're wrong and condemn people. That is witchcraft, baby. Just because you use the Bible scripture, that don't mean it's not witchcraft, baby. It's witchcraft. It is witchcraft. You playing witchcraft prayers. Okay, it's witchcraft. Control, try to control situations and outcomes is witchcraft. Any way you dice it up is witchcraft. If you put it in the front row at a church, it's witchcraft. And I remember I made the video about energy work and Reiki and stuff like that. And one person commented like, the exact same thing that you're explaining within this video as it relates to these energy practices is the exact same thing that I experienced at church. Baby, at no point in time when I refer to God am I talking about a church. I just explained to you, I don't really attend church like that. Do I attend online church? I attended online churches before they were a thing. Before the pandemic. Because I realized I can bring church to me. Church can be right here in my house. What if I can't get to a church? You're going to tell me that I can't experience the presence of God because I can't go to a church? It just didn't begin to make sense to me. And a lot of times we're looking to other people for the answers instead of realizing that the answer is right here with us. So there's this lure, like I said earlier to these occult practices because you get to be the Lord. But that's the same thing that some of these churches have done. You think the pastor is the Lord. Baby, Jesus has always been Lord. He's always been Lord. It's never been the pastor. I know that's what they try to say, but it's never been the pastor. And because people don't like that idea, they have decided to go another way. That is what's happening. Okay? And girl, like I said, this conversation, I gotta put a warning before this. So let's go to the first one. Like I said, I'm still in the first episode. I'm not even done the first episode, and I'm extremely triggered. Can't you hear how fast I'm talking? Blanket time. Baby, they're sitting the kids on the blanket. They said they sit the kids on the blanket and put a toy that they desire on the outside, like just outside the blanket. Now I'm talking about babies that can't walk, of course, like just learning to sit up and stuff like that, crawl around, tummy time. Put a toy that they desire on the outside of the blanket. And when they reach for the toy, they get popped. You guys think that's what Christians do? Like, you think, what does that have to do with believing in Jesus? That people abuse and misuse? Honey, that is just not. It's just not. Can I say it's not? It's just not how it goes. And I'm so sorry that people have done that, but you need to work out your salvation for yourself. Stop listening to folk. And this is like, they went extreme. And the love of the Lord, I can't say everything was bad. Kind of like I was talking about the school system. Honey, it didn't start off bad. It's like people get money as an intention in there because they were making a lot of money. People get money, and when money becomes the motive and money becomes the reason that you move, it just becomes so cloudy. And then everything in this way is kind of like collateral damage. Like the children, the marriages, everything becomes collateral damage. It becomes all about the money. And I feel like that's what happened here. Spanking the wife? Okay, so anyways, girl, the kids were doing a lot. Homeschooling, is it inherently bad? No, not necessarily. Could I see how people who want to do their own thing, want to control, want to just do all the things wrong to kids, they're going to find out a way to do those things anyway. So I get, yeah, it's bad in that sense, but the only thing that I can say is, as a mother, stay on your post. As a father, stay on your post. As a grandparent, stay on your post. As someone who has people who are under you, looking up to you, stay on your post. Do the right thing. Whenever you choose to do something other than the right thing, something bad is bound to happen. That's the only thing I can say. That's the only thing I can say. courtship. They mentioned courtship in there like it was a bad thing. You guys know, did not date my husband. No, we went on like one date and we weren't like boyfriend and girlfriend. And then we went straight into being engaged and married. Why? Because I wasn't interested in rolling around in the bed. I wasn't interested in having sex before marriage because you guys know I had 2 children before then. One when I was a teenager, one I placed for adoption, and I knew the outcome. Yes, I know what the Bible said about it, and I also knew the outcome. So if you can look around and you can see all of the possible outcome, you make a decision. You work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. You make a decision what you're gonna do. I'm not gonna beat you upside your head and tell you what to do. I'm gonna tell you what the Bible said. You can look up what the Bible said. You can look in the Bible, you can read the Bible. You can seek God for yourself. You can seek understanding about what you should do. Don't take it from me. But I didn't see anything wrong with courtship. Another one is family and abuse. We know, y'all know my story. Yes, families do it all the time. But it's like, I mean, it's trickled down from generation. It's to make this thing seem like it's not complicated is frustrating. It's very complicated. Family structures are very complicated. And look at the new family structure where the children get to run amok. Do you think it's any better? Let me know down below. Do you think it's any better than the parent being the one in control? The parents who actually have control legally and like financially, they're actually in control. Do you think it's a bad thing for them to be able to lead and guide their children? I know what the Bible says, but what do you think? Because apparently people think, and I'm not saying what they did in this documentary is right, because it's not. Beating kids for no reason, like the fact that parents actually went to seminars to learn how to beat their kids was beyond me. And babies. One lady said the baby was like 14 months and she had to beat him all day long. I'm appalled. The whole having one baby and then having the oldest take care of the next baby, appalled. And I know it's not just within their community, it's within Black communities, it's within Hispanic community, like it is within all communities. But you have to begin to say, not what did my mom do, not what did her mom do, not what did her mom do, not what my dad did, not what his dad did, not what did his dad's dad. Like, we got to stop looking at all of that and say, God, what should I do right now? Like, I know what you did with them. I know what your word says. That's a beginning. I know what your word says, but what is it that you are telling me to do right now? And stop looking to other people for those answers. It's imperative because family abuse is real. And let me tell you, when you move out of a family system of abuse, it's hard. You're hearing it from me. It's hard. You are the bad person. You might not ever be looked at as a good person ever again. Somebody's always going to have something to say when you try and break the cycle of abuse, but it must be broken. Because guess what? My children respect me, but they are not afraid of me. And I do not want them to be afraid of me. Respect and fear is not the same thing. You're not about to sit here and talk back to me. That's not going to happen. But you also have leeway to say something. You have leeway to tell me how you feel. You have leeway to say, hey, Mom, you know, that was hard for me back there. What happened? Can I have some, can you get me a therapist? I've had these kind of conversations with my son. Like, I know you lived, you know, X, Y, and Z place for a little while. Do we need to get a therapist? I'm not always right. And I'm not God and I don't have the final say. So family abuse, I saw that in there. It was a lot of it. Family abuse is a real thing. It's a hard system to get out of. And I think a lot of the time we like to point the finger at this one, this one, and this one. And we don't realize that we also play a role in the system. And if you don't do something different, you'll be talking about what somebody did to you and you'll never change what it is that you're doing to your children. And this is the next point I have notes down here. Using the Bible as a tool to just beat people upside the head, you can only do that. My people are destroyed by lack of knowledge. You can only beat somebody upside the head with Bible scriptures if they don't have a relationship with God and they're not reading that word for themselves. Because everyone has a different interpretation. You know why? Because everyone has a different life. Am I saying like truth comes from God? We don't all get to make up. You know what happens when we all get to make up our own truth? I get to say, you know what? I had 3 kids, but I'm not a woman. I'm a man. I get to say that because it's my truth. So even truth has parameters. We don't want to hear that though. You know why people don't want to hear that truth has boundaries? Because people have taken truth. People have taken the Bible and literally used it as a way to imprison people, to oppress people. Not just from Black communities, from all communities. I understand that. And I am by no way giving leeway for that. God sees all and knows everything that has been done to make you think the way that you think, myself included. And it is up to you to develop a relationship with just you and God, where He tells you how it is that you need to walk out this thing called life, working out your own salvation. It's imperative. Because as we move on, as we progress, there's going to be a lot of this. There's going to be a lot of people choosing sides. There's going to be a lot of, you say you're a Christian? Well, the Christians did this and the Christians do that and the Christians do this. Oh, you say you this and they do this. There's going to be a lot of that. And people who say that, you know, God this and God this, you don't know what God they're talking about, okay? They might be talking about themselves. They might think that they're the God. So all I'm saying is in this last hour, these last days, I know people don't like to hear that, in these last days, as this tide turns, that you begin to work out your own salvation, that you begin to live righteously, that you begin to ask God, what does that look like for me? With everything that's happened to me, everything that I've been through, everything that I've done, what does that look like for me? Me and you, what does our relationship look like? Don't try to manipulate your children. Don't try to manipulate your husband. What does it look like? Don't try to manipulate your wife. What does that look like for me and you? Because I'm not even going to finish this whole thing. This is a means of manipulation. This is a means of control. And you cannot control people. When you control people, you ultimately put yourself in the same prison. Because the moment you try to control someone, you have to stick around to continue to control them. You are not God. Situations and outcomes, probabilities, they belong to God. They do not belong to you, and they do not belong to me. So it's the next morning, and I'm not going to hop back on my soapbox. I'm actually going to go ahead and end this video and begin a new video, okay? I think there's enough information in this video for you to really get where I'm coming from. And let me be honest, I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to post it. I'm going to keep my opinion to myself. I'm going to keep my comments to myself, but no. I have to say this because it's just, I could not even finish that documentary last night. Let me go ahead and say that. I was extremely triggered and I was extremely just disgusted because we are trying to make it seem as though, girl, don't get on this soapbox today. We're trying to make it seem as though it's just one group of people. And let me tell you, as long as you're looking for an outside source, you're looking for someone else to do what only God can do with you, inside of you, you are in the wrong place. Am I saying not use resources? No. Love books. Love books. Am I saying not watch sermons? No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you need to work out your own salvation, baby, with fear and trembling. You need to seek God for yourself. It's early in the morning. You need to wake up early. Seek Him early. If you got to be late at night, seek Him late. Driving in your car, driving to your job, seek Him. Seek first the kingdom of God, and everything else will be added unto you. Don't let no one try to sell you that they can add something to you that they don't even have the authority to add. That's all I'm going to say, okay? So, as always, if you have a question, ask the question. And I'll see y'all in the next video. The next video is actually, I'm working on it right now, but I just decided I need to end this one.